couple as well in Committee of the Whole. The first item is an update on the multiplex from myself. And so I wanted to take the opportunity heading into next week's provincial by-elections to update the public on where we are at with this file, which of course has been for some time the city's top priority. Staff have received and evaluated RFPs for architectural services, which would be the next phase of the project, and we anticipate those coming back to Council next week, actually. I'll be speaking more today regarding our efforts to secure the funding partnership of the provincial and federal governments. As you may have seen in the media, recently the federal government has asked the provincial government, and in fact all provincial governments across the country, to allocate the remaining dollars in the integrated bilateral agreement. That's the federal, provincial, municipal infrastructure funding program. In New Brunswick, there are $370 million remaining in the program. Now, they don't all need to be spent this year, but the federal government is asking the province to allocate them in this year to be used up until the end of the program in 2026. We are joining cities and other municipalities of all sizes across New Brunswick in calling on the provincial government to allocate these funds as well as their own portion to ensure these dollars go towards much needed infrastructure renewal projects in New Brunswick communities and not in communities in other parts of the country. And that's what the federal government has said. If provincial governments don't allocate the funds, they'll reallocate them to other provinces. This has created some movement and a window of opportunity for our multiplex project, which we have not yet experienced in the over 10 years that the project has been in development, and certainly not since we originally submitted the funding requests in 2018. With that in mind, I'd like to take an opportunity to update the public on a few key facts regarding the project. Reminder that the project is, the projected cost of the project is $58 million. It is based on the needs of the community through a professional needs assessment, and only the needs, not wants, not wishes, but needs, and will include an ice surface, an aquatic center, gymnasium, an indoor walking track, and community space. Also to note that the first step of the architectural services RFP will be to once again finalize and reconfirm those needs or adjust them as needed as the first part of the final design process. Earlier this year, Council indicated our commitment to allocate our $20 million of our own funds for the project, which is 33% of the overall cost, over 33% in fact. Worth noting that of this $20 million, we have over $10 million in reserves and anticipate fundraising $3 to $4 million. We will borrow the rest through the regular capital borrowing process, which is well below the amounts that we borrow on an annual basis now. So the moral that's really important is that taxes will not go up to fund construction of the multiplex. We have been planning and saving for this project for a decade. We're asking the federal and the provincial governments for their funding partnership for the remaining $38 million. At present, I probably don't have to remind you if you use them, we have some of the oldest recreation facilities and most expensive to run in the province. In the last 4 years, we have spent, and a couple of weeks ago, you'll know what I asked Director Walsh for an updated. In the past 4 years, we have spent over $700,000 on Band-Aids alone to simply keep the doors open on these existing 6 facilities. That is not making them better. It is simply keeping them open. And including in the last couple of years at about the $250,000 a year rate. The new centralized facility is anticipated to reduce our operating costs and also to reduce our carbon emissions by at least 40%. Every other region of the province has received provincial funding support for this type of a facility in the last 20 years, and Miramichi families deserve adequate recreation facilities just as the families in every other part of the province. As you may be aware, there are a couple of provincial by-elections happening in our region next week. And I've met with all 3 of the candidates from parties that are currently represented in the legislature in the past couple of weeks to speak to them about the project. All 3 of those candidates have committed to supporting our project and advocating to help us secure the funding from the provincial and federal governments. I'm asking the members of the community tonight, especially those who will be voting in those by-elections, because a major portion of one of the ridings is, of course, in the city, to speak to the candidates and to the other members of the Legislative Assembly who might be in town campaigning to voice your support for this desperately needed facility in our community, and to ask them yourselves to commit to helping us secure the provincial funding partnership. For citizens who are looking for more information on the project, you can find the full needs assessment, costing report, and application for the multiplex all on the city's website. This facility is an essential piece of Miramichi's future if we're going to continue to provide the quality of life that families and seniors are looking for when they're deciding where to live. And never more than now is it more important to have the quality of life people are looking for as we're competing for people in population in the decade to come. This, again, will provide Miramichi with a beautiful, modern, energy-efficient, and cost-effective recreation facility for the next 50 years. It is an urgent need, and the cost will only increase if we don't secure funding partnership in the immediate future. The time for this project in our community is now, and we ask you as members of the public to voice your support to those campaigning around our city in the next couple of weeks. To council, we'll keep our eyes and ears open and working with the provincial and federal governments as they're doing their evaluations and their allocations in the weeks ahead. So thank you very much for the opportunity to provide that update on our important project.